D&D Out Loud with Ben Riggs. Episode 98, a conversation with Nicholas Montegriffo and Alan Hall.
Welcome to D&D Out Loud with Ben Riggs. I am Ben Riggs, the apparently still controversial D&D historian and author of Slaying the Dragon, A Secret History of Dungeons & Dragons. And over the past 13 years of writing and podcasting, I have met hundreds of creative geniuses in and around the world of tabletop role-playing games. Here on this show, I asked two of these flaming torches of the human imagination to come on and have a fascinating discussion, which I then send out into the world. Today, we are diving deep on the demonic and imagine what if, instead of running away from demons and devils in Dungeons and Dragons, creators and companies ran towards it. Recently, we had Gavin Norman of Old School Essentials fame on to talk about the Demonic Grimoire, which is funding on Backerkit as you hear this. May is Old School Essentials month on Backerkit. Gavin Norman and the other Necrotic Gnomes, celebrating an Exalted Funeral, have gathered an entire cult of creators to summon a Luciferean library, Hellish Hardbacks, possessed pamphlets, Satanic scrolls, Cthonic codices, Malevolent manuals of memes from Mephistopheles, the wicked works of Woland, the only demon brave enough to visit Stalin's Moscow. Today we have two of the eldritch elders, monstrous I gotta start. I was doing so well.
You're on a roll there for sure.
Sorry, Chris.
Chris
is my editor. Please, sorry, Nicholas, go ahead.
Yeah, I was mentioning to Gavin the other day, I was like, hey, Ben Riggs called you a flaming torch of the human imagination. And I was just like, oh, he says that to all the boys.
I mean, I do say it to all the boys, but you know, you guys get special descriptions here. And that's where I stumbled. So Chris, I'll take it from today we have. So you can cut it Stalin's Moscow before this. All right. I got to get back to that same fever pitch. Today, we have two of the Eldritch Elders, monstrous masters, whose manuscripts will be birthed unto this wicked world, whether we would have them or no. First up is Nicholas Montegriffo. His contribution to this macabre and malign month is Hellblaster against the Cyber Fiends. The adventure's pitch reads thusly, quote, under a burning sky rent asunder by eldritch storms, a jagged wreck from an unknown world vomits corruption. Abominations of fiendish flesh and mirrored chrome spit hot plasma death from iron orifices. Amid howls for blood and cries of pain, priceless artifacts of alien technology sound a call to adventure. Inspired by classic modules and early 90s dark industrial aesthetics, Hellblaster Against the Cyber Fiends is a location-based adventure for high-level characters set in a crashed spaceship captured by forces of hell? Welcome, Nicholas. I have questions, but I'll save that for the conversation proper. But thank you for coming on the show.
No, I'm glad to be here. I am a sometime listener. I've enjoyed a lot of conversations that you've had. You wouldn't believe how excited you were when you snagged Kevin Crawford out of his silence.
That was months of work there to get Kevin Crawford on the show. I still kind of can't believe I managed that, and I'm surprised that show hasn't done better. I should keep reposting that. Also joining us is a Luciferian luminary and accursed augur, Alan Hall. Alan's works include UFH Contact, UHF Contact?
Usually.
Sorry. Alan's works include UHF Contact, a series of adventures for liminal horror, The Mountain of Power, an awesome pamphlet adventure for Old School Essentials, and his contribution to OSE month is titled Out of the Iron Labyrinth, and it's described like this. Out of the Iron Labyrinth is a hell escape adventure built for play with Old School Essentials. Whether they were kidnapped by a cult, traded to a demon by an evil wizard, or accidentally banished by an errant spell, your character must navigate the court of Yilthrax, one corner of the infinite iron labyrinth, in order to find a way back to the material plane. Designed for play by one player character, Out of the Iron Labyrinth can be played with a GM or as a solo adventure using the included solo tools. Perfect as a self-contained module or as a side adventure when the party in your campaign gets split up, or when only one character can make it to game night. Welcome, Alan.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate the invitation.
So I'm going to ask a question I know the answer to, but have you two ever talked before?
Not really. No. Like we were on a group call for OSE month, and traded a handful of Discord messages, but that was about it.
Yeah, sorry. It's been really great actually to meet Alan and the others in the OSE month chat. People have been sharing art and ideas and stuff, and it's been really exciting to make some connections and see what people have got cooking.
Well, I've got some conversation starters. I'm gonna start kind of in the shallow end of the pool. Again, when things slow down, I'll just throw out another conversation starter, and if I end up saying nothing, that's fine too. But a question that sometimes proves fruitful is, how did the two of you find old school essentials?
You mean like how do we discover it, or like how do you form this as an opinion?
How did you discover it as a player or GM, and what motivates you to design for it? Would be the two subsets enfolded in that query.
Yeah, I'm somewhere in the embryonic history of old school essentials, because I used to live in Berlin, where I met Gavin Norman, just as a sort of fellow traveler in the OSR world. So we started playing like first edition Dungeons and Dragons. I was actually, even though I'm a millennial, I was taught D&D by an older guy who had just like stacks of the old TSR stuff, and also, funnily enough, stacks of occult books and all sorts of lore. So I was an early victim of the evil demons of D&D. But fast forwarding back to OSC, Gavin had started out making the BX Essentials books that were like the early attempt, I think, at the retro clone. At the time, I think like Labyrinth Lord and Osric were buzzing, so it was still like OSC was still in its infancy, but we like worked together on making something to show off this this kind of like this retro clone to conventions, and at the same time also brewing was like the Dolmenwood setting. And so we took the adventure that would later become Winter's Daughter to some gaming conventions in Germany, where we kind of shaped it, ran it over and over. So when I guess I've always been a kind of like OSR player. When 3.5 was like the big thing among my peers when I was younger, but I bounced completely off it, too much homework. So yeah, I went from AD&D to Labyrinth Lord, and then when OSC came out, and I still love Labyrinth Lord a lot, but as a property, like the development of it is kind of stalled. And OSC is kind of flourished. I think it's really like when you're right for the old school, it's the place to be.
So yeah, I have probably the more common millennial experience, where I started with 5th edition, and then was doing that for a little while, and then pandemic hit and was sort of lost when that game ended, and found Mork Borg after that and started playing and running and writing for Mork Borg. Loved it. And it really wasn't until last summer for the Appendix N Jam on itch, which was extremely popular, lots of entries there. And that's what the Mountain of Power, that great title, came from the Appendix N Jam. That was when I was like, all right, this is supposed to be Appendix N. This is supposed to be old school stuff. What system am I going to stat this for? It's like, well, I got to do something old school. And it's right there in the title, Old School Essentials. So that was my first exposure to OSE, was taking that dungeon and statting it out for OSE. And been thinking about it since then. And opportunity came up to get involved in OSE month when I met Gavin at PAX Unplugged. So talked my way in there. And so here I am, a little more OSE.
So I have to ask an obnoxious follow-up, which is, so Nicholas, you met Gavin in Berlin?
Yeah, just looking for other people that lived there that were also playing like AD&D and MBX. So this is like before retro clones. This was retro clones are out there, but it was still like, I don't know, the OSR wasn't so much of a business. A lot of people was trying to, play BX or play AD&D, and was so happy to find a fellow traveler there.
I mean, that's what strikes me as remarkable. I mean, I've lived in Egypt, Japan, China, and America, and like I've poked around to the tabletop role playing game scene in all of those places, and it was pretty sparse to say the least. So it's remarkable to me that, and again, I don't know, maybe Berlin has a huge role playing game scene, but it's remarkable to me that you managed to stumble into Gavin Norman in Berlin, and you're both playing D&D from 1981. That's just crazy to me. And what did you do on Winter's Daughter?
So there was I'll try not to like throw out any hidden lore that isn't supposed to be out there, but basically
we're here for the hidden lore.
In its developmental stage, it was, I feel like OSE and Dolmenwood were both sort of like I said, embryonic, kind of cooking up at the same time. So it started out as a way to show people kind of BX essentials and how to play old school games. Dolmenwood was the setting, and so the kind of story was set up, started dungeon, some pre-gens, which I think are still kicking around online. And I don't know actually if Gavin still had the idea at the time to eventually make it a separate game, but it was like, we're going to go to conventions, we're going to sell BX essentials and show people this adventure. And then later on, it was actually called the Tomb of the Giant Slayer. So like Winter's Daughter is essentially a tomb crawl. Me, Gavin, and Frederick, who's also credited, I think, in the original release. We kind of like, it's Gavin's baby, but we workshopped it, tested it. I'm fiddling with the ways different encounters played out. I've got really good memories of having fun, like adding tension to the Druid encounter at the beginning, the kind of frozen in time pre-wedding feast of Snowfall at Dusk at the end, laughing at some of Gavin's like traps in the dungeon. I have run, I think, Winter's Daughter now. It's still my go-to whenever I need to give people a taste of some OSE stuff. So like run through it over and over again. I think still there's still quite a bit of the prototype in there when I do it, but it's been really cool to see how popular it became.
Neat. All right. So demons are obviously really cool antagonists for a game. They're supposed to be tough, smart, Machiavellian, which I'd also imagine makes them really hard to write or design for. Can you tell me what the demons are like in your adventures? Were they difficult to write? And I'll pick on Alan first because you Nicholas just talked, so I'll pick on you. And
Yeah,
again,
no
hopefully I can be quiet after this.
So in the adventure that I'm working on, yes, so it's in hell, so there's demons everywhere. And so we got as part of OSE month, we got a little sneak peek at the Demonic Grimoire book. So we had some stuff to work with to make sure that we were all pulling from the same canon. From the same sort of, it's not lore canon, but like the same stat blocks, the same spells, the same ideas, so that there was some standardization across the different projects. And so in there, I was like looking through. I was like, all right, I write adventures and locations. So I'm like, I got to pick a location out of one of these demon lords' hells, and so that's where I came up with the Iron Labyrinth is one of those hells. And so turned out that the demons that Gavin had picked to be in that hell are all really hard. They're like all HD 8 and up. And I'm like, and my sort of thing that I've gotten into with writing adventures has been very much looking at like solo play or one player play, one GM, one player. And I'm like, I can't have like one player character going up against like HD 8, HD 10, like all these monsters one after the other. So the adventure that I wrote is very much not about fighting, which, you know, people say that's what OSR is about anyway. But it's your character gets, like as in the intro that you read, Ben, gets pulled into hell. Lots of different ways you can do it. You got some options presented there, but however you wanted that to go, the character is now in hell in the Court of Ilthrax, which is actually not even a demon, that's a dragon, just because I like dragons in my Dungeons and Dragons. And so they're now here with all the damned souls that live in hell, and they need to figure out how to get out. And so that's going to probably require interacting with some of the demons that are there, some of Ilthrax's subordinates, who some really like him, some really don't. And playing a little bit of politics between these demons is sort of the idea for this adventure. There's a map of a dungeon and there's stuff going on in the rooms, but it's really about, there's also characters everywhere, and which characters you're going to talk to, which you're going to like, which are going to have good reaction rolls, and sort of balancing that against the fact that if you go one-on-one with pretty much any of these demons, you're probably not going to make it.
I love that. I was just like, excuse me, demonic sir, I'm not supposed to be here. And I was like, sure, yeah, that's what they all say.
Well, that's sort of the thing there. And you can, and I put stuff in there like, so I've sort of in the adventure, I've differentiated between damned souls, which the idea is, okay, they died on the material plane and their soul was dragged to hell. That's one thing. And then there are free souls, and they have not yet died. And so they have they're different rules applied to them. And so you are a free soul. And there are other free souls too. There are cultists that have the honor of being able to come to hell and meet with demons and Ilthrax and things like this. But yeah, the idea is there are certain of the demons, especially Ilthrax's like first lieutenant Nyalora, is an Arianez by stat block, but she really wants to get rid of the dragon. So it's like, if she sees you and recognizes you as a free soul that's not connected to anybody, she might very well be like, come on over here, let's have a chat. How can we help each other? So that sort of thing. So that's sort of the idea that I was going for. So Nicholas, tell me about demons in a spaceship, because that's the vibe that I got from the intro and from looking at the art on your teaser page.
The spaceship isn't much of a spaceship anymore, but I kind of so essentially the idea for Hellblaster came from my own campaign, a long-running like high-level AD&D campaign, where I was having a kind of long-running series of encounters and antagonisms with some demon lords. So demons are always sort of showing up to harass and antagonize the party. And I used to like to plop old TSR modules down here and there. So I decided to do Expedition to Barrier Peaks at the time, one of the sort of Gygax classics I hadn't gotten around to. And as the game kind of shook out, the players took their time getting around to the place, and I decided the demons had gotten there first. So I ran the module with just like throwing all the demons in the monster manual into the rooms. They picked up lasers, put on power armor, and started messing stuff up. And then, you know, had so much fun doing that. I thought, yeah, I'm gonna do it again, you know, when I have the opportunity. And whenever I do that, I always like, I like to play modules, but I always end up like deviating away from them quite a bit. And then it's like, well, now the demons are like the main thing. So what if I designed a scenario like this where the demons are like the main event, not just an interfering factor? And when I was a kid, you know, my my kind of introduction to like heavy metal occult demon game media was definitely the shareware version of Doom. So you know, I was like, well, yeah, I know exactly what demons in this kind of spaceship should feel like. And yeah, kind of went from there. But so my approach is combat is not a fail state. There is going to be violence, but like yourself, I've also put in quite a few different rivals and factions, trying to control the ship. They're very, a key thing there is that have either of you seen the movie Event Horizon? When you know, I
know it. I know it very well by reputation, though.
Okay, well, something like that happens to a spaceship. It's like a military research facility, so they're already doing weird things. They study a strange source of energy. Boom, sucked into hell. Crash through it for a while, spat out over the borderlands of sword and sorcery world. And you know, demons have taken over and are messing around. They have advanced technology, but they have limited power, energy for it. They have found a way in their demonic ways to take energy from where demons know how to take it, from the souls of mortals that they've ensnared. And their rivals kind of fighting over these souls, what to use them for. It is a high-level adventure. I figured I do want to use the demons properly. I want to soup them up a bit. And I thought, okay, because I was raised on AD&D, I was like, what would Gygax do? And I always think of something like Steading of the Hill Giant Chief. Like, it is a place where you expect a lot of fighting. It's tough, but you get to, if you're clever, direct where and when the violence happens to your advantage. And that's the idea. You can do infiltration, you can do a bit of faction play, but there are cool toys in there that are, you know, blasty stuff, and I do expect you to have fun with it. And you know, maybe come out missing a leg or a friend, but yeah, it's going to be a little mix, violence and strategy. Yeah, the demon factions are kind of themed. It's funny that we ended up talking because Bethgor and the Iron Labyrinth, this sort of like oppressive, kind of like very devilly demon realm, features quite a bit in one of my factions. There's another one that's more a group of seducers, deceivers. They've hijacked like the ship's entertainment centers to ensnare victims, so you can become addicted to screens, games, that kind of thing.
It's getting a little too real here. I don't need screen addiction in my games. Too real.
I mean, you can just shoot them.
Yeah, that was the thing about the Bethgor. Like that really, when I was trying to think, like, you know, going through the different demon lords and their domains, which are presented in the Demonic Grimoire, Bethgor and the Iron Labyrinth and the prison hell. It really, like, this really jumps out to me. Like, that's in my mind. I'm like, this is a good hell, right? Some of them are, you know, swamps and ooze and things like, yeah, that would be a bad place to be. But like, you know, this is focused on torture and chains, and I'm like, yeah, this really screams hell to me. And so, as far as the demon planes go, it's like, I mean, that's where we're going to go.
Do you have any of the horrors of bureaucracy in there as well?
I mean, so there's a line in the Demonic Grimoire that zombies are the office workers of hell, and so yeah, I have a fair amount of the bureaucracy of the zombies who are connected in chain gangs, because otherwise they wander off. And so they do a lot of the processing of souls as they arrive in hell. And so you can see a lot of those processes, and there's things to be found among the paperwork that is throughout the court, which is the focus of the adventure. But yeah, it's there if you want to engage with it, and you want to, and that's one pathway to escaping. So the whole point is for my adventure is obviously to get out, since you're not damned, you're not locked here. You can escape, and there are pathways out. One of which is going to involve doing paperwork if you really want to.
Can I read the description of Bethgor from the Demonic Grimoire?
Go right ahead.
So this is Bethgor, the father of chains, demon god of incarceration, torture, and agony. Paradoxically, Bethgor is known as both the Gowler and the prisoner. His chains create a web of incarceration that he himself inhabits. An avatar of subjugation and pain, Bethgor makes no distinction between captor and captive. Both are holy disciplines by which his followers may commune with the divine. Though often associated with justice and punishment, Bethgor truly seeks to spread torture and control over all creation, regardless of wrongdoing. And a quote from a Bethgor, I guess the Bethgor cult chant is, "Pain beyond flesh, pain beyond mind, pain beyond spirit." And so Gavin sent me a PDF of some of the Demonic Grimoire last night, and I haven't had a chance to look over much of it yet. But holy cow, that's well written.
Oh, it's beautiful, and I think you can gather from that. I'm like, when I read that, I'm like, yeah, this is hell. It's like, yeah, we've got an ice plane and we've got a swamp plane and we've got all these and the eternal battlefield. But I'm like, this is where we're going. There's also it's nice for it's sort of like an indoor area, which is a lot easier to draw and explore than infinite planes. It's a little harder to represent in a little booklet.
Something I really liked about the grimoire is that when if you looked at the AD&D monster manual, I was always fascinated by the demon princes and stuff, and it was just like, one day I'll run a campaign of 8 years and my players will fight a demon lord. And it took me well into my 30s to manage it, but it happened. But you kind of they were very evocative, but you didn't get so much of a sense of like, what are these demon princes ruling over? Like, what are their cults like and stuff? But I think like Gavin and the team have done a really good job of making tying like the demon lords to kind of ranks that go all the way down to like cultists and invocations, and I think it'll really help referees like get these big scary monsters and make them like mean something in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I really liked each one comes with its own set of divine spells for divine spellcasters. So if you get cultists into your game as NPCs, you can have some special spells that they can have access to, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and in Hellblaster, really, the cyber demons are present, and they're the kind of showpieces, but I can't fill a dungeon with like 50 cyber demons. I'm not that mean a DM, so I've got cultists, I've got different like followers and hazards. My take on Bethgor is perhaps topical. The Bethgor representative is a possessed AI, which has taken over the ship's robots and security systems, seeking to reduce everything to algorithmic dictatorship.
I'm sorry to interrupt again, but I have to ask. Tell me more about the cyber demons.
So yeah, the kind of concept of what was happening in the spaceship, which I've in my typical like very on the nose way named the Morning Star, the crash spaceship, is that they were making like experiments in cybernetics and bioengineering to create weapons of war and super soldiers. The demons, when they seized the ship, they kind of knew it was powerful. They probably not that technologically adept, but they can use magic to like kludge things together when the machines don't work. So they fused their own bodies with these machines, so you can get I've made quite a few bespoke cyber demons. The faction leaders I think are particularly terrifying, but I've also got random tables for referees who like to create their own. So you just be like, okay, this one's got a blaster arm and telescoping limbs. This one's got an overclocked heart that makes them go faster, but has a chance of exploding, kind of thing. So every cyber demon is unique. You take your standard demon stat block from the Grimoire and make some additions. So yeah, the cyber demons in one faction are all about packing big guns, extra weapons, heavy armor. There's a demon lord in the Grimoire, Drazagoth, who's like a demon prince of war and aggression, and so kind of leaning into that one. The Bethgor type cult is just all about making themselves as machine-like as possible. And the cult of pleasure, one led by a ring of incubi and succubi, equal opportunity seduction and deception. And they're all about using holograms, illusions, misdirection, and installing cyber modules to deal with that. The player characters can mess around with various machines in the ship that can lead them coming out different than before. I don't know if better, but different. Depends how lucky you are.
What level is this for?
I'm going for levels 8 to 10. It's I kind of went big, go big or go home here. Because I was like, I don't really want to water these down too much, and from our inspirations, when I played like Doom and Quake and stuff, you loves the big bad guys, so yeah, I had to have a few of them in.
I'm really trying to pull back on Kickstarters and stuff like that, but like, A, all of this sounds really, really good. B, even though I feel obviously you guys are taking inspiration from old school D&D, but I don't feel like demons and devils and hell is a thing that any D&D product has truly knocked out of the park yet. I mean, the old school stuff is inspiring, but it can be kind of clunky. And did either of you read Descent into Avernus?
I think I browsed there's a 5e version of that, right?
So Descent into Avernus it was supposed to be 5e crazy wahoo D&D in hell inspired by Mad Max Fury Road. Like that would be the elevator pitch for Descent into Avernus. The actual product regrettably falls far short. Like it was I saw it and I'm like, this looks amazing. 5e, like hell D&D. Okay, finally, like a D&D 5e product that's they made that's not for 14-year-olds. And I picked it up and it was a huge disappointment. You could really see the rough edges at the beginning and end of every chapter. And in my role as a historian, it has come to my attention that there was pressure to insert Baldur's Gate because it was thought that Baldur's Gate 3 was going to come out at the same time Descent into Avernus did, and then Baldur's Gate did not. It came out many years later. And then I want to say the lead on the project had a sort of personal tragedy and had to like call in sick to work for like a month. And as a result, I want to say Chris Perkins took over for that. I think it was Adam Lee who couldn't come into work for a month. Chris Perkins took over, and Perkins had his own vision for the product. So like suddenly tons of things changed. Do you guys know the name MT Black? So he is a like bestseller on the DMs Guild. Like ridiculous number of reviews, vastly positive, and he was working on that project, wrote tens of thousands of words, and when he got his contributor's copy, almost all of it was gone. Like it was a project that somehow, like, they got it out the door at Wizards, but it was clearly in no way their best work, even though it was such a cool idea and should have been awesome. So it really feels like Demons and Devils and Hell is a real gap in the lore, the community, the canon that you guys are just jumping into exploit.
I think it's one of the crowns, of like D&D. It's sort of like the D section of the monster manual, right? The dragons and the demons are like the things where you pick it up and go like, one day I'm gonna have a game with like tons of dragons and demons, and that's when you can't win D&D, but maybe you've won it when you've beat up Demogorgon and an ancient red dragon.
Yeah, those stat blocks are always so impressive, and especially in the 5e books when the one stat block is an entire spread, and it's like, yeah, this is everything. And I'm like, I will never use this stat block, but I'm going to read it.
I can't. And I was once in a game where the GM ran a Savage Tide adventure path, which I think is a Pathfinder one, or maybe originally 3. And at that point in kind of D&D evolution, everything had so many hit points and abilities were so complicated that I was just like, I would never run this, especially like high level monsters with many abilities. But I think like at the level that we've got, like OSC because the when BX did Immortals, their take on like demons and stuff was pretty crazy and complicated as well. I'm glad that OSC is kind of built on the BX to AD&D type of power complexity curve. I think it's really good.
Yeah, Gavin, when looking through it, talking about the size of the stat blocks, he's been able to put every one of these as one column, right? Every demon lord, doesn't matter how big or bad they are, it's like they get one column of that layout, that the standard OSC layout. And it's like, yeah, this is everything you need to know. And it's still terrifying. If I was a player, I'm again looking at like any of the demon lords, all 20 plus hit dice. It's like, I don't think anybody's really fighting these guys. And like, abilities where like, oh, if you fail, save versus death, or like if you fail save, now you're taking an extra 5d8 damage. It's like, oh, that's pretty much going to kill everybody.
But what if you had a really big gun? That's
what if you were a cyber cleric, because you went into the spaceship and pushed all the buttons and came out and was like, I'm ready, bring it on. That would be fun. That would definitely make for a good time. And it's like, it might not fit the plot might be a little thin, but like I'd be bringing out the demon lord at that point. It's like they're just going to show up.
Let's see. I think I certainly haven't touched on having demon lords as antagonists. I've brought out some big hitters. I'll say that.
Yeah,
but,
it's even in you're in the Iron Labyrinth, but you're not meeting Beth Gore. That's not the point of the adventure that I've written. Like, that's why I put a dragon. He's a little bit he's a little buffed up from the standard dragons from OSE, but yeah, no, we're not going up against the demon lords themselves.
So let me throw something at you guys. And tell me what you think about this. This is a thing that occurred to me when I was thinking about, all this demonic content for old school essentials. So if mythology is the collection of stories a culture tells to explain the world, gods, heroes, monsters, death, creation, all that stuff. And if D&D is this medium, this game, where everyone can tell their own stories about those subjects, does that make D&D into this kind of engine of personal mythologies? And to what degree does that suck us in? Any response? If you don't need to say anything if you don't want to. It's just a weird thing I was thinking about.
I think you might be onto something. I think that Dungeons and Dragons, like its hold on popular imagination, and like it's got its like hooks in so many nerd brains that there's a lot of stuff that comes from, I think, like usually Gygax's personal interpretation of like a myth or a folklore that has become like a weird kind of canon in people's heads. Like I've seen people online argue sorcerers do this and witches do that, or that's there's argue things like the difference between demons and devils. Is like none of that is like real mythology. They made that up for a game, but this kind of like taxonomy and obsession with trying to put the very like amorphous world of like myth and folklore and monsters into something maybe that can be more known and quantified is definitely out there. I think D&D has made a sort of pop mythology all of its own.
I'd say, to me, if mythology is about understanding the world around you, D&D is more an engine of folklore, which is just on a smaller scale. Is we're not trying to explain why the world is in a certain way, but I'm a big fan of folklore and folk stories, and how they're just sort of a microcosm of that sort of broader idea of why we tell stories. And so I love the idea that, because for most of D&D, you're not heroes, you're not killing God, you're not killing the demon lord, you're just doing little things that seem big at the time. And to me, that's leaning much more into folk story, folk history, and what you're creating there at the table is that history of this little part of a world that may or may not, the world may be fleshed out in the GM's mind, may not be, but like that's that little story that you're telling.
So there's a lot of current role-playing game design that seems to prize being short, pamphlet adventures, one-page dungeons, tight procedures. Do you think what do you think gets better when you cut things down? What do you think gets lost in a short piece of work?
I think with adventures in particular, so I've written a lot of pamphlet adventures. I wrote a whole box set of them last year for Liminal Horror. And I think what you have to remove, I don't know about losing, but what you're taking away is a lot of context, because you have limited space. You're like, I'm just going to give you the biggest key points that I can to explain this space or this situation or this scenario. Like, here me being the designer talking to the GM. It's like, here are the high notes that I think you can put together into a cool experience. And I am putting it on the GM to then fill in the blanks. And I've heard lots of people say it, like, in writing a good pamphlet adventure, the important thing is knowing what to leave in and what to leave out, and knowing where to put those blanks. I'm not saying that I've done it perfectly every time, but that's what you're doing, is you're putting it still needs to happen. Like an adventure still needs all the things. So you're just moving it from the designer's work to the GM's work, which is okay. I mean, a lot of GMs don't like running from adventures. They're like, I have enough in my head. I don't need a book to tell me what's going to happen in the next room. I'll just make something up. So, but being able to give that person, hey, here's a couple that have this thing and this thing and this thing, and this is your hook, and here's an adventure, and they can do all the other work, and they'd love that. And then you have other GMs who are like, no, I need to know. Like, I don't want to be making this up. This isn't my job. It's like, the reason I bought this book is for you to tell me what's in the room. And so I feel like there's room for both. I absolutely agree with you. I don't see many people, other than the Demonic Grimoire, I don't think there's many triple-digit hardcover books, adventure, like single adventures coming in OSC month. I think there might be maybe one of the hex crawl like settings might be a big book, but people don't have time to read big books. That's a lot of modern life feels like. And so I aim for booklet. So, zine, I don't know. Some people have issues with the word zine sometimes. It's a booklet. It's professionally printed. I'm not printing it at home. But I want just, a little thing that's, 30, I think this one's going to be about 60 pages. So it's not nothing. It's, I'm giving you a lot of stuff here, but you're not investing weeks preparing for this game.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I think there's a lot of distance between like the 1-page dungeon, small pamphlet adventures, and something like a 60-page A5. I think I don't have it on me, so I hope I'm getting this right. But I think someone once marveled that that Against the Giants was something like 9 pages and 30-something keys or something like that, or just like just very very small, but packed with stuff. And
a thing I throw out is Ravenloft was 32 pages long.
There you go, right? You can squeeze a lot out of a short thing. I feel like as an experienced GM who can be like, oh, someone's telling me here's an adventure in a submarine, whatever. I can imagine a submarine. I'll describe it. Whatever. Dungeons, I've been to loads of dungeons. Don't tell me what shape the flagstones are. Like I can handle all that. So yeah, sometimes it's just like a minimalist approach is useful to look at and run from the table. But sometimes I feel like the adventures that capture you most with what they're about do need a little more. I was thinking again of like if you read something like Vault of the Drow, there's even like a bit of box text on the way in. That's like has a really evocative description of it, talking about like the dark fairyland of seeing the luminescent fungus in the caverns and stuff, and that is like a kind of new space for people to explore that doesn't have a standard template in people's heads. So you need to I think juice it up a bit. When writing, it's sometimes hard. I feel like I'm a maximalist by nature, and so then I got to pull back and like work with editors and things. I also worked on a quick delve, like this series of short adventures that Necrotic Gnome are doing. And these are like 1-2 session adventures. And again, it's just more of a way of like how much interactivity and how much fun can we get from the limitations. I think that can really spur creativity. For me, with Hellblast, we're going for something along the length of the bigger OSE adventures, I guess I can compare them to. We're looking at map is still kind of being squished, so I might still edit some stuff down, but I think we're looking there at like 50-something keys, and because OSE doesn't have rules for cybernetics and stuff like that, I need to have some pages detailing that. So it is an unusual space that needs a bit more stuff in there.
All right, well, I'm going to ask a selfish question. So, Alan, I keep hearing about liminal horror. I think I even have a liminal horror supplement sitting next to me. I'll look in a second. But I actually know nothing about the game. Can you tell me about liminal horror?
So, absolutely. I can give you the pitch that I give at PAX Unplugged. So, liminal horror is a rules light. So it's a descendant of Into the... Oh, I wrote the solo adventure in that book. Yeah.
Oh, well, good work.
Yeah, it's
you
great
made me buy it.
Yeah, so I worked with Stations on that. It's great book. So liminal horror is a descendant of Into the Odd. So you get 3 stats. It's D20 roll under. For saves, you're only doing saves. There's no checks or ability checks or anything like that. And it's modern horror. So the way they do horror in liminal horror is your mental stat is control. And so like in Into the Odd, when you take damage, your strength goes down, like physical damage. And so in liminal horror, when you take stress damage is what they call it, which is being exposed to the horrors, you take damage to your control stat or you lose control. And then like in Into the Odd, where after you lose strength to damage, you have to roll a strength save, or you take critical damage if you fail that. Same thing here, except for when you fail your control save to avoid a critical stress, you gain a fallout. And so fallout is your character being warped by their exposure to the horrors. And so this warped is, I mean, some of it is physical, is body horror warp, but a lot of it is also just mental. There's one of the, so there's tables of fallouts in the main rule book, and then other adventures sometimes come with bespoke fallout tables to match the theming of the horrors in that adventure. But there's one that I love from the main book. I don't remember exactly how it's worded, but essentially you see in your peripheral vision a door. There's a door. It's always there. And you can always see it. And if you ever open the door, your character is lost. And that's it. And so I actually watched a YouTube, an actual play of one of my adventures, and they found the horror, and one of the characters was about to die, and the other one had already acquired this door. And he's like, I wrap my arms around the monster and I open the door. And it's like, you both get sucked through, door closes, you both disappear. It's quiet. And it was just like such an amazing way for that adventure to end. So it's like, so these fallouts that you acquire, your character's changing. And so so that's sort of how it does horror. For modern, I usually set those adventures in like the late 90s so that there's no cell phones, or at least not cell phones that ruin horror. Like I think an iPhone pretty much takes away all the horror from a horror game or a horror movie or whatever. So I usually set them there, so they're really not useful. And then for the way the fallouts work is they go in your inventory. So just like other Into the Odd systems, when your inventory is full, that's that's when your character is vulnerable. And so that fallout goes in your inventory and it never leaves. And so that's how you're slowly acquiring these over the course of several adventures. Usually in a session, you might have one character, depending on how rough what they're doing is, acquire a fallout.
And where can people find your work for liminal horror?
So my stuff, I have everything on my own website. So mallenhall.com, just all lowercase, all straight through. And from there, you can link to my itch page, which is where I sell PDFs for everything.
Cool. All right. Last fun question. What is a work that you enjoy that you feel hasn't gotten enough love? For example, I would point to Infinity of Ships by Stations as a work that I'm kind of obsessed with. That, I'm like, why doesn't everyone have this on their shelf? You need to have Infinity of Ships. It's that good. I'm
looking over at my shelf over here, and I've got I'm gonna stand up. Excuse me.
Do it.
What do I have? Oh, I do have the I Don't Belong Here and the that you had.
Huh?
So what? I'm gonna let Nicholas take this one away. I'm looking at my shelf here.
Sure. Well, I'll say a couple of things, like one being an adventure and one being a game. And me, I feel like the real grognard over here because I keep bringing up the like old TSR stuff. But
It's great. Do it.
A huge fan of the OG Palace of the Silver Princess.
No,
and
I was in my mind. I was like, he's not going to say that. And you said
it. I've hacked it and remixed it over and over again. I feel it's kind of like a rough diamond that can be made to shine, and it's so different from all the other stuff at the time.
So I need to shout out listeners. This is a famous adventure because supposedly the art in the original editions was vaguely sadomasochistic and involved certain TSR business people in compromising positions, and that the initial print run was entirely pulped. However, my understanding is that certain obscure libraries have secured copies of the original print run. But please continue, Nicholas.
I was going to say straight up that I first read that model when I must have been like a tween or something. So, I did not get the get that part of it, but it was just I don't know. It's like rough and wild in a way that you only see in like the early days of the hobby. It's one of the standouts from a woman designer also from back in the day that you don't see so much. And it was it had like gaps in it where you like a half-finished dungeon where the GM would like fill in the blank spaces. It had all sorts of lore that didn't really make sense, and I appreciate the beauty of that much later when I played like games like Dark Souls and things like that, where you kind of pick up little tidbits of lore when you find something or talk to one of the many very, very crazy NPCs, and your brain like makes connections that maybe the author didn't intend but can still be very fruitful. Like I loved playing that module, and then it was like real when the GM, after we played through it, gave it to me and was like, oh, you can see what it was like behind the scene. I was like, what? There's like blank spaces here. There's nothing here. This stuff that I thought I really knew what was going on isn't what was, going on, or, isn't explained. I made that up myself. I think it's really fun. It is not kind of complete and easy for the GM out of the box, so I can't recommend it on that level of design, but it is very inspirational.
All right. And Alan, what would you recommend?
So and I feel a little bad. It's not that it's not getting attention because it's not even had its full release yet, but the game probably that I've played the most recently is 5 Million Worlds, which is a mothership hack by Chris Ario. And so it's a little more, it's not quite, it doesn't lean into the horror so much. It's a little more, there's people everywhere and lots of different people, very far future, post-human sci-fi role-playing. That like I said, it's probably the game I played the most in the last couple of years. And right now it's just like, I think a free like pocket mod is the rule set. But I know Chris has been releasing adventures for it on his newsletter, and he's planning a full release in the future.
What's it called again?
5 Million Worlds.
5 Million Worlds. Okay,
cool. Chris Ario.
Oh, okay.
Chris Air of the Mothership community.
Gotcha. All right. Well, we have Hellblaster and Out of the Iron Labyrinth that, when you hear this, are both on Backerkit. I guess I should ask, Nicholas, how much for a PDF? Do you know?
Yeah, it's $12 for a PDF. Then the Might of the Cyber Fiends can be yours.
And Alan, how much for a PDF of Out of the Iron Labyrinth?
$8.
A mere $8. Oh my God, you're making it easy. Making it easy on people. Great.
Yeah.
Well, I can't thank you both enough for being here. Listeners, please go forth to Backerkit and check out OSE month. Alan, Nicholas, thank you so much for taking an hour to chat.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you so much for having us.
We got it, Nick.